Today, we have some super important developments in the Russian-Ukrainian war, which could have long-lasting strategic consequences. The main headline today is the destruction of the Belgorod thermal power plant and the city's main substation. This left the city and the surrounding region without electricity and hot water. But before we get into that, let's start with some good news from the front lines. Because there are remarkable developments that show Ukraine's increasing tactical advantage. In the Pokrovsk direction, fighters from the 59th Brigade took down a Russian Mi-8 helicopter using an FPV drone. This was no ordinary helicopter. It carried important personnel, likely officers, and after being hit, it caught fire in the air and crashed. The Russians claim some passengers survived, but judging by the fire, this seems unlikely. Ordinary Russian soldiers are not transported by helicopter to the front. They mostly march on foot. This helicopter was carrying something very valuable, urgent, or someone high-ranking. The exact type of drone used is not fully confirmed, but it may have been a special anti-aircraft FPV drone. If so, this is tremendously significant because it shows that Ukrainian forces can now target Russian helicopters using advanced modern tactics, even using technology that has evolved from previous generations. This is a game-changer in the south, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and Dnipropetrovsk regions, where wide-open steppes made helicopter tactics extremely effective for Russia. Now, Ukrainian forces can neutralize this threat, which greatly enhances their defense and counterattack capabilities. Last night, Ukrainian forces carried out precision strikes on the Elektrodetl factory in Bryansk region. This factory produces electronic components for Russian tanks, aircraft, helicopters, and missile systems. The strike caused major fires, destroyed several workshops, and will likely disrupt production for a long time. At the same time, Ukrainian drones attacked the Feodosia oil depot in occupied Crimea, a key facility supplying fuel to the peninsula. This depot had already suffered previous fires, but the recent strike further crippled it. The shortage of gasoline and diesel in Crimea is now severe, with prices skyrocketing and rationing in effect. These attacks are not random. Ukraine is systematically targeting Russian military logistics and energy infrastructure, aiming to disrupt supply lines and weaken Russian forces in occupied regions like Kherson and Zaporizhia. Now, let's discuss the Belgorod thermal power plant strike, which is truly a milestone. Ukrainian forces used GMLRS rockets launched from HIMARS to hit Belgorod's main TPP and substations. This plunged the city and surrounding areas into darkness and cold, effectively cutting off heat and electricity. Why is this so important? Russia has relied heavily on attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure to try to demoralize civilians. They believe that without electricity and heat, cities will descend into chaos. People will riot and authority will collapse. But now Ukraine has turned the tables. For the first time, a Russian regional center, a key border city, has been cut off completely. This sends a strong political and psychological message. Russia is vulnerable, and Ukraine can strike deep inside Russian territory. From the Russian authorities' perspective, no electricity equals no control. If citizens lose access to basic services, Russian officials fear unrest and chaos. This is exactly why Belgorod's governor, Glodkov, spoke in front of a brightly lit theatre to show control and stability despite the blackout. The implications go beyond just electricity. For Russian society, especially Z activists, these strikes are shocking. For 3 years, they were used to watching Ukrainians freeze and suffer, thinking Russia was safe. Suddenly, the same tactics are applied to them, creating confusion, outrage, and fear. Moreover, this confirms Ukrainian President Zelensky's recent statements. He promised that if Russia attacks Ukrainian energy infrastructure, Ukraine will respond in kind. And this is exactly what happened. Using long-range rockets and drones, Ukraine demonstrated its ability to target Russian energy and military facilities effectively. This is a clear demonstration of asymmetric warfare. Ukraine can hit high-value targets inside Russia, disrupt logistics, and weaken morale, all while defending its own territory. So what lessons can we draw? First, modern drone warfare and precision strikes are changing the battlefield. FPV drones can target helicopters. Long-range missiles can hit factories and power plants. Ukraine is exploiting these capabilities to maximum effect. Second, Ukraine is applying economic pressure strategically. By disrupting fuel and electricity supplies, they are not just attacking militarily, they are also targeting Russia's economy and internal stability. If these tactics continue, winter could bring serious socio-economic consequences for Russia, from fuel shortages to inflation, affecting both civilians and the military. Third, this sets a precedent for the rest of the war. Ukrainian forces have shown that striking deep into Russia is possible, and that strategic retaliation can be effective. This could influence future negotiations, battlefield decisions, and the overall balance of power. The strikes on Belgorod's thermal power plant and substations, as well as the military factory in Bryansk and the Feodosia oil depot in Crimea, aren't just military victories. They have serious economic consequences. Cutting electricity and heat in Belgorod forces local businesses to halt operations, disrupts industry, and imposes additional costs on repair and maintenance. The Bryansk factory destruction delays production of critical electronic components for Russian military hardware, affecting tanks, helicopters, and missiles. Meanwhile, the attack on the Feodosia oil depot further limits fuel supply in Crimea, driving up prices and creating shortages not just for civilians, but also for Russian military units operating in southern Ukraine. In short, these strikes strain Russia's economy, disrupt supply chains, and create internal pressure that could compound over the winter, weakening both civilian morale and military readiness. In conclusion, yesterday's strikes on Belgorod, Bryansk, and Crimea are more than just tactical victories. They are strategic game changers. Ukraine has demonstrated its ability to hit critical infrastructure, disrupt Russian supply lines, and send a clear psychological and political message. The war is far from over, but events like these show that Ukraine is adapting, innovating, and striking back effectively. For Russia, the warning is clear. No region, no city, no facility is beyond reach. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave your thoughts in the comments. We will continue to track these developments closely as the war enters a critical phase.